And thanks for joining us today. I'm Alexandria, of course, with Navigate HCR. This is our annual, sorry, not annual, but our weekly webinar presentation. We are focusing really heavily now on questions that any of you guys have. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box, which is located on your controls portion of the web. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. I am going to go ahead and mute everybody except for myself and Angie, and we're going to go through a few things that we have planned this afternoon, and then we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. And if you guys, we would love to see you on video if you would like to ask us some video questions, or if you want to type them in the chat box at the end, or if you want to tap them in the chat box and I can answer them for you at the end of the presentation, we'll do that as well. But I'm going to go ahead, and Angie's still got her fun, there it is, background this afternoon. And Angie's going to go through a few new and exciting things for us, I think. Hopefully everything's starting to turn the tides. And Angie, you can see my screen, right?
I can, thank you.
Awesome, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome, welcome everybody. I'm on video, so I hope to see your faces. And no, I don't have any makeup on today, so it's always exciting. We're all working from home, getting comfortable. So we've got a few pieces to discuss today. More will be coming up shortly, but we wanted to, as Alex said, focus a lot of our time on really having a space for you guys to ask questions, whatever your needs are at the moment. We're here to support. So a couple things to review with you. We've got some new pending legislation coming down the pike shortly. Senate approved this. The House is looking to vote hopefully later today. This is what they've been bickering over a little bit for the past week and a half or so, looking to drop another dropping another $484 billion. That's what's pending now. Essentially because the original $349 billion that was designated for the Paycheck Protection Program ran out. So they're looking to drop another $322 billion in for that. Out of that 44, we've got $60 billion for the small business disaster loans and grants, $75 billion for hospitals, and another $25 billion for testing. Now, they've already approved, as far as legislation that's already out there, $8.3 billion and another $2.2 trillion. This is very, very enormous. So more to come on that. I'll, of course, be watching for the vote today. Once the House passes it, which so far they're saying they will, then it goes to the president to sign. So hopefully, pretty quickly, we will see what that really contains aside from just this small summary. Alex, go ahead and switch my screen, please. So what I want to talk about for the next couple of slides is some future planning. The White House came out with their phased reopening strategy. Now, of course, that's just the White House's plan, essentially, a kind of a guidance or baseline, but states are quickly utilizing that and crafting their own plans for how they want to reopen. We know every state is experiencing things differently than others, so it makes perfect sense that states would want to do their own type of phased planning based on the guidance from the White House. So at this point, 17 states have a documented plan. We have a group of states here that are in an integrated type of plan. So if you're in any of those 7 states, that's a pretty cool item to look at. Some other interesting facts that I saw, you know, working on a national level, I like to try to see what all states are doing. And just a couple interesting pieces. 14 states have delayed their primary elections. 22 states still have an executive order on domestic travel limitations. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Where I gather that information, if you're curious, is the National Governors Association. So when we talk about a phased reopening, and as you can see on the right side of the screen, unemployment percentages as of the end of March, these are just kind of the top states at this point. So a lot of folks we know had to do some layoffs or furloughs. So we are going to have lots of employees looking to come back to work. I've noted a link here, which when Alexandria sends out her thank you with a copy of the slide deck, she's going to include a couple additional resources which are going to go along with what we're going to continue to talk about. And this is how to get your business reopened, some of the things you need to be planning for. So the phases are going to come in 3, 4, 5 different stages, but those stages could happen relatively quickly. We'll see. But we know that resources around cleaning and things like that are a little challenging to come by. So planning ahead is going to be the best guidance for you. Alex?
Too many screens open.
So as far as some tips for preparing to open your business, first and foremost are safety measures. The OSHA 3990 we are going to provide to you. We downloaded that from OSHA's website. This is a great resource as far as getting your place of business ready for a phased reopening. You want to be really careful on having a plan and those resources in place for cleaning. If you want to screen employees' temperatures, things like that, you want to make sure you have barriers between people. Now, obviously, if your place of employment, everybody has their own workspace or office, that isn't going to be as big of a deal. But if you have any type of client-facing situations, you may want to look into those barriers. I'm sure you've all seen those clear, like plexiglass, anytime you go to the grocery stores these days or the gas stations, convenience stores, things like that. They've put in those like plexiglass barriers. You want to make sure that you have ample supplies of soap, hand sanitizers, face masks possibly, if your employees are seeing the public. And certainly get started on what communications you're going to be giving to employees and to patrons. Please watch what your state's phased reopening plans look like, especially based on the type of industry you're in. So when we look at employees returning to work, being rehired, coming in from furlough, things like that, you want to be ready for a phased reentry. Now, if you can continue telework for some or all of your staff, that's great. If you're not really able to do that, or you haven't been able to do that in the past, think about, are you able to do shift work for your folks so that they're not all in and working 9 to 5? Can you split up maybe so that you have minimal amounts of people in your place of employment or your office space at a time? You certainly want to be stressing physical distancing measures. The first few stages of some of the plans I've looked at, they are still going to really, really, really lean in on physical distancing. I know we all want to see our coworkers and give them hugs, but we can't. Certainly, let's look into what kind of education, guidance, and resources can we get out to our employees. Once you start re-onboarding and getting people back into work, be prepared to do regular check-ins with your folks. Check their pulse weekly, and I don't mean their physical pulse, but get a feel for how they're feeling. Are they experiencing anxiety from being back into work? Are they still fearful? Employees' levels of emotions are going to vary from one end of the spectrum to the other. Be prepared for that as much as possible. And certainly, if you're going to continue to utilize teleworking for all or some of your staff, if you haven't already, start doing some weekly online, like we're doing right now, get a look at their faces. It really does go a long way to give them a bigger level of comfort when you're communicating with them all on a regular basis, at least weekly. And then certainly be prepared for the documents for rehire and re-onboarding employees. You're going to need to go through all of your documentation again. For the most part, employment forms, emergency contacts, make sure whatever you had previously for payroll deduct is still accurate. If you laid off employees and they were removed from benefits, you're going to need to look at doing an enrollment type of a special enrollment or open enrollment for benefits. Make sure you're fully comfortable with what your handbook has stated as far as rehire provisions, and certainly if you've made any adjustments or relaxed any of those, make sure you're treating all employees in the same manner. So I hope that helps. Again, we're going to be sending out about 3 pretty good pieces that we hope will help you in your phased reopening planning process. And certainly let us know if there are other things you want us to touch on or help secure for you as you're making your reopening plans. Alex, I think that might be the end of my slides for today. Yep, perfect. So let's take a look. Do we have any questions, Alex?
I don't have any questions. While we're waiting for a few questions to come in, I did just want to remind everybody, if you could RSVP, I put the link in the chat box. Please make sure you guys RSVP. That way I have your email addresses so that when we do send the content, you guys will have all of those resources that we're sending to all of you. I don't want to miss anybody. So I'd like to go ahead and open it up for live chat. So if anybody has a question, please go ahead and unmute yourself or show us your beautiful face, and we'd love to answer some questions and interact with y'all.
Definitely. And while we're waiting on questions, don't forget, guys, our microsite is still open. I think that's on the next slide, Alex. Don't hesitate to go out there, keep utilizing that. We definitely use that for preparing some things for next week's presentation. That stuff is really helpful and helpful to other people. So we've got a ton of questions asked and answered out there. So feel free to use that as a knowledge base to see, if your question has already been answered.
Hi, do you have a question? No.
No.
Okay.
But thanks for showing your face.
Yeah, yay! We like seeing people. We did have a question that I got earlier this week that I thought was super interesting from one of our people who's come in the past. They have a client that has decided to pay the monthly premiums for medical for their full-time staff, most likely through July. They're wondering how that will impact their ACA compliance since the employees won't have enough hours to qualify for benefits.
So yeah, and that was a great question and one that hadn't been asked before. So it's awesome to throw into our knowledge base for everyone. But to give you the rundown on the answer to that question is this. So if you've had to furlough your employees and you're still opting to pay their benefits, or if you laid them off and still opting to pay, but regardless, they're not physically working or teleworking, but you wanted to go ahead and continue their benefits and pay for those, that's awesome. Keep in mind, you want to review the contract from your carrier to see what the carrier has to say as far as how long an employee can go without actively working and still maintain benefits. So you want to double check that you're not violating any terms of your contract with the carrier. So either reach out to your carrier, reach out to your broker, they can certainly help you with that. And then as far as ACA reporting, remember when you do ACA reporting, it's asking for, was there an offer of benefits? And if so, did the employee enroll or decline? So it doesn't really ask you about hours worked. It's just simply asking, did they offer, or did you offer benefits, and did they enroll or decline? So if you have employees that aren't working in the month of April, but you continued their benefits, that's an offer and an enrollment or a waiver if they didn't take them. So you're not going to treat that really any differently on the 1095 form.
Awesome. Thank you. We did get one question and a follow-up from it. That's awesome. This is from Joey. What's your guidance on screening employees upon returning for duty? Example, what are the questions that are appropriate to ask regarding exposure and being in contact with someone? And then a follow-up to that question was not only those questions, but besides paper questionnaires, are you aware of any digital platforms?
So the CDC and OSHA are going to be your best resources to look. And again, we're going to send some of those out to you guys after this presentation. To make a digital platform probably wouldn't be too difficult to do. There's a lot of free resources out there on the web to do some sort of kind of confidential Q&A type of situation. What's going to be really critical here is that prior to bringing employees back, you want to make sure you have already educated them on what their responsibilities are. They should tell you if they are feeling sick, if they have been exposed to anyone who's feeling sick. And a lot of the plans that I've seen from the various governors is that they are going to take some pretty significant strides in contact tracing. So it's super critical that you educate the employees that they must tell you if they have a fever, if they aren't feeling well, if you know, any of their family members, or they know of anybody that they've come in close physical contact with that is exposed, therefore they may have some exposure. And that goes along with regular CDC guidance as far as if, you know, you've come into contact with someone who had tested positive, that you know, you need to do your part and isolate yourself. So it's going to be real important that you come up with that educational material for the employees so they know what they are responsible to do, and as well as give them some peace of mind as to what you're going to do. You know, if 3 times a day during the workday you're going to have cleaning going on, you know, cleaning doorknobs, cleaning bathrooms, cleaning non-porous surfaces, you know, a variety of things that you can do. That I think the more you lay the groundwork, the more comfortable your employees will be. Now, as far as taking their temperature or making them answer a screening questions every day, you know, that's something you just need to be careful of. As far as it's got to be done privately, you want to protect their you know, the answers to their questions. You want to, you know, you don't want to have all that done out in the eyes of everyone else. Certainly in the event you have an employee who, you know, is experiencing symptoms and has been in the office, you know, things like that, you want to make sure to communicate that to your employees while keeping the infected employee's information and name and everything confidential. Oh, Alex, you're on mute.
I'm talking to myself. Anybody else? Any questions? I know that I have seen a couple of different forms, and you can easily make them fillable. So Angie, I think Angie and I will find one of those forms and attach them in the email that you guys will get after this. So that way you guys all have easy access. I think that would be helpful for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And as always, if we can create something and share with you guys, we certainly will do that. You know, or at least give you some direction if we can play around with it and be successful.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Awesome. Good. Well, I think we're going to wrap up since we don't have anybody else hopping on or no other questions. And I think we're going to do maybe one, maybe two more of these, just because everything seems to be slowing down a little bit. We're really glad you guys are here. We hope you guys have gotten a lot from these. Please make sure if you have any questions, just shoot either myself or Angie an email, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Also follow us on social media. All of our social media, we post regular updates as to what the IRS is releasing and OSHA and all of the letters. And, you know, our goal is to be here for all of you guys as a resource, and hopefully you find us valuable. So make sure I have your email address in the RSVP so I can send out that follow-up email for everybody. And yeah, if you have any questions, let us know, and I will get this recording posted, and feel free to share with all of your contacts as well. Anything else, Angie?
I think I'm good. My cat's decided to come in for a quick visual. All right. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe out there and healthy, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.